morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. Let's go ahead and see what happened here yesterday. If you guys recall, we wanted to see the bulls recover up through 50% of the previous week. And that was kind of the first task that we had for the bulls yesterday. If they could not do that, there were some clues, obviously, of weakness in the market and holding down below 50% of the previous week and then down through the high of the day before. All that was going to be a good clue that the bears were still in power there. Let's take a look at what happened. So the market opened. We held VWAP here within a couple ticks, right? Pulled back out of the open, held beautifully on that second test. And then we got an attempt here to go ahead and rally even higher through the overnight highs. And what happened here, you had perfect opportunities. In fact, this was probably one of the best trades of the day there, with a beautiful peak below and bounce, bullish divergence in the direction of the breakout to the upside. So remember, we were coming up. Let's go to the higher time frames. We were coming up from the low of Friday here and getting this nice big breakout. Through the previous swing highs of the week before, popped out, and we were coming out of into the open here, pushing to new highs compared to the last day or two. And that was kind of the idea here. Was, hey, looks like the bulls are going to try and break out. They came right to our first expected resistance up here and pulled back just a tick or two in front of it there, right? There's the first pullback. That was a great opportunity to try along. And there's that second opportunity to the tick off the 200, right? So two kind of attempts to break out through that level, and then they finally got back up and tried to hold above it here. You can see how many times they held within just a point or two of that level into the tick on that first test. And then finally, the weakness began. Well, I guess the major weakness didn't happen yet, but we got the pullback. They tried to hold the previous daily high again. And what happened? Talk about this all the time. Could not get through the fast moving average on that bounce. And it got a little bit deeper here. Unfortunately, didn't get a nice sexy bounce right off the VWAP in this instance, but kept going. And then it seems like, and this is such a common situation, they had to come back and test into the close of the day before, and then that began the attempt to break out to, again, get up through 50% of last week, which was up here at 56.31, right? So they did hold down through the close, but again, not enough strength to really get any further. And then the breakout happened. You can see on the way up, there was a bit of trouble off the VWAP. There was a bit of trouble off the previous daily close. And then we got this attempt again to break out. They got a little bit further through our expected resistance at 56.21 there. And then again, just a couple ticks in front of 50% of last week. For all intents and purposes, they basically tested the 50% area of last week, right? And then from there, it petered out. And then we got the big sell-off. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happened here. So once again, even though it was what might look a little messy around our expected resistance, on that pullback, they came right to it here, nearly to the tick, right? So they were it was almost like a bull flag, right? They're kind of flagging out. And then it looked like maybe they would go ahead and launch higher there. But as you can see, the bears jumped right back in, and this is exactly what we want to see in a bearish market. We want to see the bears defend that 50% level and go ahead and pull it lower, right? So for the rest of the day there was a decent move, but you have to keep in mind as well that yesterday wasn't super directional. It kind of just parried back and forth here, right? So after it failed just in front of 50% of last week here, started to come down. There's our first tag of the 200. It just didn't really go very far, right? So if you got in at 10, you would have got 5 points, my first target typically, right? So I would have made 5 points, but then it came right back. And then, in a way, this began the stair step because we held, again, from right around 50%. Then when they came back up to the next roadmap level here, they could not get through it. So there was a good short opportunity there. In fact, it was once, held the previous daily close twice, pulled back, and then third time gave it the last kiss goodbye, and then they brought it down and stepped through the next roadmap level to bounce right in front of the Holy Orange power level and come back and hold the back end of the previous daily close, and I guess technically the 200. So it was quite literally each roadmap level that we pushed back into, it has stair step down off of. And then you can see at the end of the day, it was just a little, excuse me, it was just a little chop vest back and forth, basically between the S&R at 97 and the close of the day before there, right? So it was choppy, it was a bit messy, but there were some decent opportunities throughout the day there. In fact, to me, the best opportunity was to be long here, noticing the hold from VWAP and then noticing that beautiful, in real time, if we were here watching this, I would have told you right away that that little peek through with this beautiful pattern was a very good opportunity there to try and get long, at least to our first expected resistance, right, from 12 to about 21 there, just under 10 points, and then up just in front of 50% of the previous day, which would have gave you about almost nearly 20 points to the upside, right? So, and if you would have taken profit in front of 21, you would have grabbed the swing high. If you would have taken profit right in front of 50%, maybe say a point and a half in front, you eventually could have gotten out off the high of the day, right? So that was really, in my opinion, probably the best thing you could have done. And actually, if you held on, you probably wouldn't have gotten that, right? Because it came right back. But you would have gotten a decent 5 and 10 pointer out of it. And that's basically it. So that would have been probably my favorite opportunity of the day. And then from there, you can see coming into the overnight session here for the Globex, the bears have jumped right back in. And I do think it's kind of interesting that this first support, when the market opened last night, right here, was one of the retracement levels to the tick. So I'll just pull up the higher time frames and I want to show you something here. Again, it's just kind of an interesting observation. Another reason why I am very big into watching the main fib levels, and that is, here is the beautiful push from Friday's low. We came up and we made this high yesterday just in front of 50% of the previous day, and then we got the pullback, and this area that I just drew that line on the shorter time frames there, that is to the tick the 61.8 retrace. And so the market opened, gapped down, and then found support for 2 or 3 hours right off the 61.8 right there, right? And then eventually they did continue on the downside. This was a clue that the market was still pretty heavy here when they couldn't defend that 61.8. So let's go back to the short time frames. There's that 61.8 level there around 75, and would have been a good support area to try along there. It just didn't give you much more than about 5 points, right? Could have got 6, 7 out of it, but again, a 5-pointer off the first, second, and third test, and then finally failed down. And interestingly enough, my friends, failed and then bounced right off of, oops, wrong button there, but failed and bounced right off of our roadmap level, right? Came back up, held the FMA, what do you know? Again, held our roadmap level here. Couldn't get through the SNR, interestingly enough. And then fell down and got another bounce last night, right off our next roadmap level. Right? So it just kind of blows me away. They come up, they like Peter, they ping pong back and forth right off these areas. And now here we are coming close to the open, and off this next bounce, off 55, 51-ish, they could not get through the next roadmap level and the hopeful, right? They kind of peaked in, and now here they come down lower. In fact, that was a very micro head and shoulders there, right? And now we're going right where that pattern would tell you it goes, right? And now as it falls down even lower, what do you know? They're bouncing nearly to the tick off the next roadmap level. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Holds the 61.8, fails down through that, holds the scaffolding level, fails off the back end of the SNR, comes to the next SNR, can't get through the next set of roadmap levels, comes down and bounces right off the next roadmap level. I don't know, just blows me away. Then don't tell me we don't have probably the most accurate levels available on the S&P. So let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and see what they have to say for this morning.